All right, it's Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight on Twitter. You follow me, I'll follow you back. I'm joined by a special guest, Pigskin, writer for today's Pigskin, and a guy that I've had on a couple of times. I have a lot of respect for him, and I'm gonna lean on him tonight for information about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rick Brown. Rick Brown, please tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
First of all, Gene, thank you for having me on this show. What's happening, folks? Rick Brown here. You can reach me on Twitter at RickBrown91. You can also find me at todayspigskin.com. Just check out the Buccaneers. Come down the slide. It says NFC South. Check out the Buccaneers. I got you there.
All right. Hey, man. This is an exciting time. We're kind of getting into a little lull, but I'm going to try to roll every week just to give you something, because I'm so excited about football season. Um, you know, I could beat a dead horse, which I always do every week, and we can go all the way back to 2007, 2008, and the Bucks have just not been the same team since they won the Super Bowl. But what I'm seeing from this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, this general manager, this organization, is they're trying to build something right now. And from what I'm seeing, they're trying to build the team the right way, where you have your front four, and then your linebackers, and then your secondary. So what I'm seeing from this Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization, from coaching all the way up to ownership, is everybody's buying into this right now. And a good example of that is the draft. So, and I do, before we get started on this, I want to say I've read some of your articles over the past, I would say year, just to it a little bit. And you've been on point on so many things that a lot of fans have kind of slept on, because you're just watching the game. And I understand a lot of fans are watching the game, and when they watch the game, they're either excited they won or sad they lost. But I mean, you've hung in there, and you've given a perspective that I really appreciate. So, anybody, if you get a chance, go to todayspigskin.com. Great site. You guys have picked up a free agent, I see.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. My man Roy Cummings, who spent years with the Tampa Tribune, he's joined and he's helping us out. And what we're trying to do is we want to be your Bucks coverage. There's a lot of other sites out there. There's a lot of other entities that are giving you Buccaneer news. Me and Roy are going to try to give you the best that we can. We want you to, when you think of the Bucks coverage, you want to come to todayspigskin.com, because between the two of us, we have about 60 years of experience in the writing business. And with the Bucks, we have almost 20 years combined. So join us. And what it is, we try to give it to you straight up. And one of my favorite sayings is straight up, no chaser. Straight, no chaser. All right. I'm not going to lollygag about something. If something I
Sugarcoat.
sugarcoat, if there's something I think is wrong, I'm gonna say, hey, I didn't like that move. And we talked about Lovey Smith before and all of that, so we don't have to rehash that. But I'm gonna tell it like it is, and like the way I see it, because I look at things not from a fan perspective. I try to look at things from both sides, and then because usually there's one side, then there's the other side, then right in the middle is probably the right way. And I try to be right in the middle. I try to give it to you the way it is. I tell you straight up, and that's how I feel. Some people like it, yeah. Some people don't, but that's what you get with me. Straight, no chaser.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate it, and I respect you and what you do. For me, I've seen both sides of it, and the Buccaneers have, for a long time, I felt, have been kind of mismanaged. They didn't, and there wasn't a lot of investment. There was no direction, but man, you kind of saw a little bit of direction. You kind of saw where they were building in certain places. I know they've missed on a couple of things, but they've hit on some things. They've missed on free agency. They've hit on the draft, but they've managed to build a foundation. And a lot of people may not want to say that, but we have a foundation right now. You have your Gerald McCoy, you have Quan Alexander, you have
Levante.
Levante David.
Yeah.
They brought in Brent Grimes. You've drafted Vernon Hargraves. And so you can see the foundation for this team. And, this is the first time I can say Buccaneers have a front four. They have an actual rotation on that front four. And you
Yeah.
know what? I'm very comfortable with them. I know a lot of people wanted to see different moves made in the draft. You know what? Let's see what happens with the Noah Spence. Let's see what happens with the Ayers. Let's see what happens with the fully healthy Gerald McCoy. Let's see what happens with the fully healthy Clinton McDonald. I mean, this team has a lot of players that you have not heard about on NFL Network. You've not heard about on ESPN. These are guys that you know about them. Howard Jones. Howard Jones is a guy, hey, keep an eye on Howard Jones, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
I agree.
Jacquez Smith. Jacquez Smith, another guy. Keep an eye on Jacquez Smith. If he's 100% healthy, if Howard Jones is 100% healthy, you know what? Get your popcorn out because it's going to happen, okay? So, there are a lot of, unless you are that fan that knows football, that knows certain positions, that knows schemes. I know we haven't gotten a chance to see the defensive coordinator, but I tell you what, based on last year, the only way this Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization can go is up. I'm sorry. And no offense, I love Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith is a guy that, I was more excited than anybody else to have him here, but I'm sorry. I want to see this team win. You can talk about sentimentality. I think a lot of questions will be answered at the end of this season as to whether or not the defense was handled correctly, the personnel that we have in place, the free agents that we've gotten, and the draft picks that we've gotten. I really do feel very comfortable with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team this year, and I feel like there are going to be problems for other teams that you listen to NFL Network, you listen to ESPN, they've got us washed up. This is the hardest schedule, the fifth hardest schedule in the NFL right now. Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
Allegedly. That's based on your world
Based on last
championship.
year.
Right.
And based on
And you know
last
what?
year.
Last year's team is not this year's team, okay? So, that's kind of where I'm at. But, where I want to start out tonight, I want to start out with the draft. And, I know I tweeted you, or actually I texted you during the draft
Yeah, you did.
about Vernon Hargraves. And that's kind of where I want to start at because first round draft pick, number one pick, this is our guy that we felt like was the best move in the draft. I know you mentioned the eye test. And for the fans out there that don't know what the eye test, I'm going to pass this over to Rick. Rick, tell everybody about the eye test and what you see in this kid that makes him the perfect fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
When I talk about the eye test, it's like I don't care about your measurables. I don't care if you're 6'2", 210 pounds, and can run like the wind. I want to see what you can do between those lines. Excuse me. Now, Vernon is only 5'10",
It doesn't matter.
190 pounds or so.
Who cares?
But every time I've seen this kid, what my eyes have seen is a player, is a playmaker, is a guy who's not afraid to stick his nose in the run game, a guy who goes up against those 6'1" receivers and jumps just as high as them. This guy makes plays.
Yeah.
I told you from day one who I wanted. I wanted Vernon Hargreaves on this team. Why? Because even though you picked up a Brent Grimes is going to be a perfect mentor for Vernon because they're about the same size and stature. And this guy, and Brendan is a four-time Pro Bowler. So he can learn from him. And why I like this move is you don't have to push Vernon into a starting role right now because you still have Alteron Verner. You still have Jonathan Banks, who I think is ready to prove. And I wrote about this earlier this week. He's
Yes,
ready to
yes, I read that
prove
article.
he's ready to prove that he's that Thorpe winner that Thorpe winner when he was at Mississippi State.
You know what? I'm gonna cut in right here
Okay.
because everybody, you talk about Vernon Hargraves and Bucks fans. Do you remember when Brent Grimes was in Atlanta Falcons?
Mm.
He used to murder this offense. Okay, used to murder this offense, and nobody's talking about that. And Brent Grimes was still 5'10" back then. He's still 5'10" back then. Used to murder this offense. Didn't
Mhm.
matter who he was up against, he was murdering this offense as an Atlanta Falcon. Nobody wants to talk about this. He was in his prime. This was before his Achilles injury.
Mhm. Mhm.
People keep that in mind. You want to talk about Brent Grimes being 5'10", you got to or Vernon Hargraves being 5'10". Remember back to when Brent Grimes and you had to face him twice a year. He was still 5'10".
And
Shutting them
making
down.
plays.
Shutting them down. Okay?
Pop, pop, pop.
That's right. Josh Freeman hated that dude because you know what? Brent Grimes was in there. It didn't matter his height. You know what? He played like he was 7 feet tall. And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to remember that. But Brent Grimes was 5'10". Rondé Barber was not that much taller. Rondé Barber, same realm. You know what? People, let this kid play. Give him a chance to play. Let's see what he can do. You know what? Everybody's talking about, oh, I wanted a defensive tackle. You know what? Get on board or walk the plank. Okay? That's what it comes down to right there, man. I get sick of this. I get sick of this. Oh, we should have did this. We should have did that. You know what? People are general managers as a hobby. Jason Light is doing this for his job. It's for fun. He's drafting these guys because what did he say last year? He wants to do what? He wants to
When?
win now. Now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He feels
And,
like what he's doing is going to put us in a position to win now.
and that's why I like that pick. And yeah, there's some defensive tackles out there that you could have gotten, but look at the defensive tackles you have now. I mean,
Exactly.
not only G Mac, not only a Super Bowl winner and Clinton McDonald, who does a lot in that locker room as well as on that field
That you don't hear about.
that you don't hear about. Not only in Akeem Spence, who holds his own out there, you still have Henry Melton, who he had the second most pass rushes in terms of quarterback hurries on the team last year. It, it, I,
Talking about that. That's a stat that is not mentioned. It's like this is the first time I've heard it.
I looked it up and I was surprised. I had to do a double take. I was looking up some other numbers and I was just going through quarterback hurries and G Mac was one with one arm. He
With
played
one
with one
arm.
arm all year. And then I was like, Henry Melton. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I mean, so defensive tackle, you didn't need to go there, not in the first round. With this guy, with Vernon Hargreaves, again, you do not have to rush him. Right? If he's ready,
Mm.
if he comes in there and earns that starting spot, hey, more power to you. But
Yeah.
he's been working during minicamp, rookie minicamp. He was working outside and inside, so you
They're
can
gonna
do him
have
like
this.
Ron.
Yeah, they're gonna have this guy all over the field. He's not gonna be Josh Norman or Richard Sherman playing this side of the field. You could put him anywhere. He's a football player. And I talked about this on my podcast last week. Versatility, versatility, versatility. This is what Jason Light is going after. A player that's not going to be stuck playing on the left side of the field. You're not talking about an offensive lineman that can only play tackle and can't play anything else. You're not talking about a fullback who could possibly be your tight end, who could possibly go out and make catches. I mean, the
Mm,
players that Jason Like has gone after and gotten are versatile. They can do more
yeah.
than one thing. So, you know what? When people are saying, oh, why didn't you get this guy? Oh, why didn't you get this guy? You know what? let him play. Let's let this play out. Let this season play out. Because I'm sorry, I don't listen to the draft grades. I'm sorry, I just don't. I saw something about the power rankings. This isn't college football. Are they playing in the Aloha Bowl or something like that? What is the purpose of the power rankings? Seriously.
To talk about.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. If you want to crunch some numbers and get ready for fantasy football, which by the way, I did win my league and I'm retired, officially retired right now, but I did win my league. I went out on top. But that's a whole other subject. But right now, what I'm talking about is, I'm seeing these numbers. I'm seeing people crunching numbers. I'm seeing the people throwing grades out there. You know what? I think what Tampa has done, they've done themselves a big favor, starting with free agency. Free agency, you go out and you get these guys like Ayers, Robinson, players like that you can bring in and fill holes. You have your foundation. You've got these guys that you could bring in. You know what that does for you? It makes your draft a whole lot better. This means I can go out and get the guy that I want. I feel like he's going to make my team better. He can come in as a rookie and start somewhere and contribute to my team. And I don't see that with a lot of teams. Maybe New England, maybe Seattle, maybe Carolina especially with what they've done. But you've got a general manager who's a personnel guy. Not like we had with Mark Dominic. You may not agree with me. Mark Dominic should have gotten fired with Raheem Morris. If you were going to fire Raheem Morris, right? I'm going to say this right here. This is this is show, man. This is the Buc What You Heard, man.
We can talk about this now.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
we can go down this avenue because I ain't got nothing but time on my hands. I'm going to tell you right now. Let me say this. What Mark Dominic put on the field in 2011 that got Raheem Morris fired should have got him fired too. At the end of 2011, you can't tell me there were 10 players on that team that could have gone somewhere and started for another team. You can't tell me.
No. I cannot. And this is what I'll say with Mark. Mark did what was told of him. Okay, they didn't spend any money with Raheem. We know this. We've talked about this before.
Right?
They didn't spend any money. But what Mark did though, he got some good players. I mean, Mark he got Gerald McCoy, he got Levante, so he helped the process. He helped start this process.
But
So
a broke clock is right twice a day, though.
Yeah. So unless someone moves it, but
yeah.
but I feel what you're saying here, and I that whole.
But I'm sorry, man. I mean, the way I'm seeing and the way I'm seeing it, we'll get back onto the draft in a second. but what I'm saying is the general manager puts the product on the field. The coach has to coach the product on the field, but the general manager puts that product on the field. And I'm sorry when Joe McCoy went down, that was pretty much it.
It was
pretty much in the story.
The last thing I'll say about that is when Raheem was fired, he said, I almost got him. And what he meant was the talent that they had for them to win 10 games the year before, if he could have gotten through that year, things was going to change. And he knew he worked his butt off. And I'm kind of disappointed that he hasn't gotten another shot as a head coach somewhere yet.
I believe he will.
And by going to offense with Atlanta, I think this will help him out in terms of he's going to see a different side. And now he would have coached both sides, and it's going to help him in the long run. But I mean, I'm a Raheem Morris fan, so if anyone was to jump on me and say I'm biased, you can say that with that.
But that's my point right there. Had he gotten better players for Raheem Morris, I wouldn't have a problem with this. I really wouldn't. And they talk about how he lost the locker room, this, that, and the third. My problem was Raheem Morris had so many injuries in 2011 and wasn't given a chance in 2012. You know what? That would have proven everything.
Well,
You'd had
the
people
thing too
you'd
is
had people
he had so
100%
many
healthy.
young guys.
Right.
He had so many young
I mean,
guys
oh
who did
knucklehead.
not know
Oh
how to
yeah,
be pros.
yeah. No, oh knucklehead over in Denver.
Well, yeah,
Keith Talib.
but
Keith
okay,
Talib. And
Akeem did have Rondé, but most of those positions,
but the thing is, with Aqib Talib drew attention to everything in when they were playing in England. That game in
oh
England drew
yeah,
attention to
yeah,
everything, and that was the
yeah,
problem with that. I mean, I'm a
yeah.
University of Kansas alumni, and to me, Aqib Talib is a knucklehead. He's still a knucklehead. I'm sorry, but it is what it is, man, and that's just just where we are with that.
Hey, Akeem, if you look at me and you are cool. We've always been cool, so
Hey,
I'm just
it
saying.
is what it
It
is.
is
Hey,
what it
you know,
is.
you saw the Super Bowl. That was not necessary. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we can move
Ring,
on. We can move.
ring. Hey,
So let's move back.
hey.
Let's move
Okay,
back on here.
okay.
Let's get back on track here with the here. Uh, the
Okay.
pick that my favorite pick of the draft was Noah Spence. If you've seen any of my podcasts since we're talking about the draft and who's available and who can do what, Noah Spence has been my guy. I love Noah Spence. I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'm actually an Ohio State hater. If you can believe that or not, you
Hey,
know, being a Floridian and having to deal with all the snowbirds that come down from Ohio and hearing about Ohio State, I will say this: that kid, that kid comes flat out ball, and I don't care about his size. I don't you like you talked about measurables. I'm going to talk about measurables. This kid has something. What are the intangibles? Let's talk about intangibles. This kid has it. They showed him on ESPN snap and getting off the ball. I've never seen anything like that. They said that I don't even know who they compared him to, but it's just amazing how fast you can snap the ball and he's off the ball to get to the quarterback. I think we've got a quarterback hunter right here. He may be playing situational his rookie season, but I fully expect him in the next 2 years to be a guy that's going hunting after the quarterback.
another guy that you don't have to rush into the starting role because of what you did in the offseason by bringing in a Robert
Exactly.
Ayers. And you mentioned Jaquez Smith. When Jack is healthy, I mean, he got you 7 sacks last year.
Howard Jones.
Howard Jones got you 5 sacks and didn't start the first 4 games of the season.
And then got injured.
And so you have bodies there. George Johnson, who didn't do anything sack wise last year, who spent most of the year injured, but the year before got you 6 sacks. So you do have a rotation there, and we didn't even talk about the development of Golston, um,
The guy
William
made
Golston,
plays. He made plays.
and that's all he does. When he's in the game, he makes plays.
Right.
So they are building. They are they are building, and if Noah can come in and learn the system and learn how to deal with first move, second move, third crack counter moves, and just soak up knowledge and just keep doing what he did in college, what he showed on the field, then yeah, the Bucks may have gotten another steal.
Yeah, I really believe they
Most
did.
definitely. The second round.
You know what, and the articles that I read a couple articles of off of TBO, and they interviewed Noah Spence, and they talked about how this guy lost football. Football was taken from him, and you know what this reminded me of? Honey Badger. Honey
Mm.
Badger. The same guy, same type of situation where uh, he got it in his head that he could do whatever he wanted to, and you know what? It was all taken away from him. Football was taken away from him, just like Noah Spence. And right now, I can tell you, Honey Badger plays a big part in the Arizona community. You would never even imagine it. What happened with Will Smith? You heard how vocal Honey Badger was about the people that were involved in that. And it just shows me that if some people are given a second chance, which I believe everybody deserves a second chance, Jameis Winston has shown you what he could do with a second chance. Honey Badger shown you what he can do with a second chance. You listen to the sincerity in Noah Spence, you know that this guy had football taken away from him. This is what I want to do. This is what I was meant to do. He's not going to screw up his second chance, and I am happy that Tampa has taken a chance on him. And you know what? My hat's off to Jason Light because the vetting process is very difficult. Case in point, Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel said all the right things. He said everything right. He did everything right, but at the end of the day, you see what you had. And that's all I'm going to say about him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock him because substance abuse is a very sad situation, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But with Noah Spence, listening to him, listening to his sincerity, just watching him, clips that I saw, I'm excited. I want football to start on Sunday, but it's not going to, but I want it to. But you understand what I'm saying,
I
that
do.
I really do
Hmm.
believe that the general manager did his due diligence. He talked to the head coaches. Urban Meyer spoke up for this kid.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you know what? That's good for me. I feel like, hey, he's got another chance. He can go out there and do that. You know, the fact that he has a woman in his life, you know what? He's gonna have the biggest stabilizer in the world. I know it's worked for me, and I would recommend it if you get the right woman. You know what? It can make the biggest changes in your life, and I believe that that's what he's working with right now. I'm happy that he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Um, you know what? Props to him. And you know, I'm gonna go ahead and throw props out to Miko Grimes because you know I'm following her and she's good people. You know,
Oh,
to
oh yeah.
we get
Oh
back
yeah,
to the
definitely. Definitely.
hey, you
Definitely.
know,
Uh,
I call her the first lady of the Tampa Bay Bucks because you know what? We have not had a celebrity of this magnitude that has been there as a beacon for this team in a long time.
hey,
Or
all I
have
can
we ever?
say, and I'll speak on Mrs. Grimes on this, and I'll leave this alone. You know, she knows football, and
Oh
if
my God,
anyone
yes.
opens their eyes and forget for the moment that she is a player's wife and just listens to what she says, she knows football. So you know what? I've had no problems with her. I have no problems with her. Do what you do, Mrs. Grimes. Do what you do, and school some people.
Hey,
School these people on that. All
she's
right.
been schooling Dolphin fans since she's been a Buck. For real. She's been shutting them down.
But
She's been shutting them down right and left since she's been a Buck.
and you mentioned Noah, and you're right in the sense that football is what he is. He lives for football, and and, and I think that by taking a chance on him, well, even by taking a chance on him, it's like this. People are going to be watching. They're going to watch his every move, just like they did Jameis last year. And now it's up to the player to prove his worth. Jameis
Absolutely.
Jameis did nothing. The only thing you heard about
Pro
Jameis,
Bowl. You mean our Pro
what?
Bowl rookie quarterback?
Yeah, that person.
That guy. That guy.
you
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
you heard about him being in the locker room, being in film study, one of the first players there, and early on you didn't hear much from him because he was playing his role, and as he got more comfortable,
I mean to
he took
cut you off.
over.
Video from Bay Cave. I don't know who did that video, but it shows Jameis Winston before the game. It shows him hyping up the team. It shows him just a lot of different scenes of Jameis Winston throughout last year. Jameis Winston is a leader, you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
and
natural,
it
natural.
just it shined through. And I'm not knocking. I'm not gonna sit here and compare him with Marcus Mariota. They're two different players. They have two different styles, two different techniques. I hope nothing for the best, but for Marcus Mariota, I feel bad that they've been put in this position. But what Jameis gives you is instant credibility in leadership. From baseball to football to the pros, what you saw in the combine, what you saw with the other quarterbacks where he was the leader, you knew who the leader was then. You know who the leader is from his first game with Tennessee all the way to the last game of the season. You knew who the leader of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was, hands down, throughout the season. But at the end of the season, there was no doubt in your mind who this was. Okay,
Indeed, indeed,
so
indeed, indeed,
so
indeed. He grew. He grew
exactly
into the and what it is. He's an alpha dog anyway.
right,
He wherever he's been that alpha dog. But he humbled himself early and
exactly,
let the Gerald McCoys, the Vincent Jacksons, the Evan Smiths, let all of them do what they do, and he just listened and learned. And when it was time for him to speak up, when it was time, when he felt comfortable enough and had everybody in their room, then he took over.
exactly. And you know what? You know what I think about when I think about Jameis Winston? I think about the Rams. I think about the Eagles. I think about the Cleveland Browns. All these teams out there that have the Denver Broncos quarterback issues. And you think about our situation. We have Jameis Winston as our starter. We have Mike Glennon as our backup. You know what? You can't ask for a better situation than that in the NFL right now. You can't. But I can tell you right now that Mike Glennon is going to get paid an ungodly amount of money when he is a free agent. Ungodly. You think what you think what's his name in tennis for the Texans? Help
Os-
me out here.
Osweiler.
Osweiler. Osweiler. You think what Osweiler got? I'm telling you, Mike Glennon, if he has a decent preseason, I promise you, this guy is going to make an ungodly amount of money in free agency. Trust and believe that. They're going to get some team is going to be sick of their quarterback, and they're going to say, "Hey, restricted free agent, let's get him in here, no matter what the cost is." I've said this even going back to November that Mike Glennon is going to get paid an ungodly amount of money for what he's about, and it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. He will get paid
yeah.
to be a quarterback.
So right now, I know we've been
But
talking
anyway,
about a lot of different things. Let's get to the kicker. The kicker, which has been, I promise you, the biggest talk in the NFL for any of the 32 teams, the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted back up into the third round and got a kicker. Tell you my thoughts on this, okay? Because this is my show.
hey,
But anyway, but
do
let's
what you
go
do.
here. Yeah, let's go here. Arguello, I thought that was a stroke of genius because I'm telling you what, this kicker is so special that somebody was getting ready to draft him. Okay? Nobody wants to talk about that. Some other team was going to pick this kicker as a player. Let's look at this from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers perspective. Number one, you got Vernon Hargraves, and is a guy that you could potentially have as a starter. Noah Spence. If Noah Spence lives up to his ability, what I believe that he's capable of doing, Noah Spence could be a starter. Arguello, here you go. He's a franchise kicker. best kicker in NCAA history. Not this year, not 2015, not 2014, not 2013. He is a kicker. This guy is an elite player. I don't care what you say about him. You know what? If you don't like him, I'm sorry. He's an elite player. 10 points in the national championship game, and that's because he made everything they put in front of him. And then you talk about all the kicks that he's made. You talk about not missing a kick, 40 yards or less, never missing. I'm sorry. This guy needed to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And you know what? The only stat Buccaneer fans need to know, third worst in the NFL in kicking. I don't care what you could throw any stat at me you want to. Third worst in the NFL. Okay? Third worst. Miss me any any misconceptions about this, miss me with that. I've heard everybody from NFL Network, ESPN, uh, CBS Sports, Fox Sports, somebody who said this was a bad move. You should have drafted somebody else in the second round. Blah, 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 blah. You know what? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, stroke of genius. Number 9 pick, okay? Let's put this in perspective. Number 9 pick. You decide, hey, body and move back to 11. You move back to 11. You get the guy you wanted at 9, but you end up with an extra pick. Okay, you got two fourth round picks. Okay, guess what? You trade your pick to somebody else so you can move up from your number 3 pick. Number 3 pick. You can move from your number 3 pick back into the second round and get the guy you want.
Hmm.
You get the guy you want. That's an issue that's resolved. Your third worst in the NFL, you've automatically upgraded. Automatically upgraded. No matter what anybody says, you've upgraded from what you had. And you know what? The kicker you had, he knew. He knew you upgraded. So tell me I'm wrong.
Time will tell if you're wrong. And this is why I say this. Yes, he was, and all we can go from on these college guys is what they did in college.
Exactly.
And when he was in college, he was the best kicker in NCAA history. That is a fact. You've already mentioned he didn't miss any kick under 40 yards, any field goal. He didn't miss any extra points. So now that the extra points are 33 yards, you would think that's automatic. The Bucks stat last year in kicking, most of that comes from early on.
Kyle Brenza.
Yeah, Connor Barth stabilized it a little bit. I'm a Connor fan, and I wish
Darth
him
Vader.
well. I wish him well. I know he's going to get a job somewhere because he's
Absolutely.
that good. But when you get a
Absolutely.
chance to get someone who could be your franchise guy for the next 10 years, think Janikowski. Think Janikowski, guys. And another Florida State guy. And so people are making a big deal because it was the second round. They traded back in the second round to get him. But he's actually your third round pick because
He
it
was
was
a
you
third
moved up.
pick. He was a third pick.
Right, right. He was your
End of
third pick.
story.
Right, right. So I don't care where you got him. He just better perform. But
Absolutely. I
by making that move, I said Jason Light, and I think I wrote about this. I said Jason Light just put a stamp on this franchise and say, "Hey, I'm gonna do what I think is right," and the buck stops here. So now we're gonna see. Now we're gonna see a lot of things now about whether from draft picks to free agency from free agency, just how much love he had had to play in.
Exactly. This
So,
this year, 2016 is going to answer so many
hmm
questions
hmm
because what you had when Jason Light and Lovie Smith came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you saw you saw these free agents come in. But at the same time, you saw these draft picks come in, and a lot of these draft picks stuck around. A lot of these draft picks that Jason Light brought in, I hear both sides of the story that Lovey was involved in that. But you know what? He's a general manager. He's the guy that puts these players on the field for the coach to coach up. So all I'm going to say right now is what Jason Light has done, he's done great. Jason Light has acknowledged that the Ghost, gone back to Cincinnati, was not the right guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he's acknowledged that players that came in 1 year showed that they were not right for this organization. He's moved on. This is what we needed in a general manager, a guy who's willing to take chances, but at the same time, he's willing to say, okay, I messed up. Let's get somebody else in here. And what I've seen him do in this year's draft, I I can't speak enough about him. And the reason I say that is because at the beginning of free agency, I was one of those jackass right here. I was one of those guys. Why isn't Jason Light going after free agents? But you know what? When I look at his body of work in free agency, who he brought in, and where they're going to fit at, and how they're going to work, I'm wrong. I'm going to shut up. From now on, um, he is basically shut me up based on what he's done. So I'm going to sit back and say, hey, he's the general manager. He knows personnel. And that's the one thing I will say about Jason Light over Mark Dominic. You may like Mark Dominic. I understand that. But what Jason Light has over Mark Dominic, despite the cap, I understand what he did with the salary cap, but that's something that a general manager is supposed to do. General manager is supposed to handle salary cap, just like a dad is supposed to pay child support or whatever else a dad is supposed to do. He shouldn't be bragging about, oh, I kept this team under the cap. You're supposed to, just like a dad is supposed to pay child support. So we've got that out of the way. I'm saying, am I wrong? Am I wrong? I'm telling you right now, man, if you're a dad, you know what I'm talking about. You better be paying child support. If you're not paying child support, you need to be. So
I'm
just
not.
like,
I'm not. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not. But
but
he's
you
right in
understand
that
what I'm saying.
room.
But you understand what I'm saying.
He's right in that room.
Mine's at football practice. Mine's at football practice right now. But what I'm
But
saying is,
you.
if you're a general manager, you're supposed to handle
Why are
that
you
salary.
bragging about?
Yeah,
Right.
don't
Right.
brag
Right.
about the
Right. Right.
salary cap. You're supposed to
Right.
be handling that.
Mm,
Okay?
mm.
So for me, what I'm seeing from Jason Light, I think he's throughout the whole spectrum as a general manager, I think he's handled everything amazing. I'm happy with him. I really do believe that Tampa is headed in the right direction, especially with the draft. Now, what I would like for you to do is touch on the other draft picks that Tampa was able to bring in and how they could potentially affect or help this team in 2016.
Okay. The one pick, and I'm gonna go back to four. I'm gonna go to sixth round, and my favorite pick in the draft. I mean, the he this guy from Nebraska. I mean, not Nebraska, but geez, man, my head's going crazy right now. The fullback, the Dan Vital.
Vitali, yeah,
Yeah. Geez,
hybrid.
this
He's a
guy,
hybrid player.
this guy has a chance to be another starter on your team because he can play fullback. You can move him if you get hurt like you did last year at tight end. He could be a tight end for you. He can catch the ball. He can catch. He has better hands than some of the receivers on this team. Okay, maybe not. Maybe all right, I pushed it in.
No,
But
I'm. You
but
know
but he
what? You
has.
may not be wrong though. You may
But
not
no,
be
I
wrong.
mean, if you look at his numbers, I mean, he caught a lot of passes there and had a lot of yards receiving, and he's a darn good blocker too. He makes this team better in so many ways, in the sense that play action, you can go to him, uh, leading the way from Dougie Doug. Uh, this is he is my favorite pick. He is my favorite pick by far. Ryan Smith, fourth round pick out of NC Central, small MEAC school. This guy, they're moving him. He plays safety and cornerback at NC Central. Playmaker, speedy. Reminds me, you know who he reminds me of, and who I expect to have a better year this year, Bradley McDougal.
Yes.
Whereas he can play the run, he can play the pass. He's quick enough to go side to side. But this is another guy you don't have to rush in. So special teams, I mean, so I like the pick in the sense that you're building for the future and you don't have to rush him in. I think Dan Vitale is going to start. I think he's going to own that starting job.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and you don't have to rush him in, but I think he's going to take his job. Uh, the lineman, I cannot pronounce his name though. Enoch,
But
yeah, help me out here. Um, Gosh,
I know who you're talking about from
from
UCLA.
UCLA.
He's our guy from UCLA.
And I'm
Uh,
sorry, folks.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm sorry. I got food in my mouth and I'm not. So so so
Hey,
please
it's
forgive
a
me.
fan show, man. Do your thing, man.
My,
Do your thing.
my the writing is much better here. Trust me. But no, on the serious side, though, this guy gives you versatility because you still have Demar Dotson and
For one more year.
Demar. Yep, you have him at least for one more year. So this is another guy who can play guard or tackle, and so he's another swing man
And see
who, if
that's been my point throughout this show is that everybody that he's
Caleb.
drafted has been versatile. They can play
Yes,
more than one position. But I'll let you go
yeah,
ahead and finish.
yeah, and that's the thing. You need that, especially on the line, because you carry 7, 8 linemen, or on Sundays, 6 or 7, and so you're going to need someone who's going to be able to. You're going to want someone to be able to play multiple positions. Evan Smith proved that last year when he started at center, and then Joe Holly, after he got hurt, Joe Holly came in, and then they moved Evan to guard.
Yeah.
Evan can do both. That's
I believe Kevin
brilliant.
Pamphile is another guy
Kevin
that you haven't
Panfield,
talked about, but I believe that he can play more than one position as well.
he can play guard. He started off as a tackle. He can play both. And then you add the rookie. eh, You're younger and you're getting more depth, and that's what you want. So he adds that as well. So the Bucks did on paper, and I always have to say this on paper, it looked good what Tampa Bay did this year. The real test comes when the bullets start flying, and that's where we're going to see a whole lot from this team. Whether their record is better than last year, we'll see. But this team has a chance to grow, and that's what Jason Light wants. You build, and this is what Mark Dominic tried as well. You want to build from the draft and fill in through free agency, fill in the holes through free agency. Um, Jason Light is
I
taking
think
that approach
you
and
know
is
what
doing a good
I'm
job
looking
with it.
Absolutely. I'm looking at a lot of the moves that the Bucks have made since Jason Licht arrived on the scene, and I
Mhm.
really do believe that the majority, everybody's stuck, but the majority of the players that he's drafted have been able to come in and make big time plays, including a franchise quarterback, including a linebacker that really was the heart and soul of this defense until the suspension. There are just players. Charles Sims. I don't know how many people I fought with on Twitter, and if you're watching, you know what I'm talking about. Fought with on Twitter because they were mad that we drafted Charles Sims where we did. Okay, so I believe that this general manager knows what he's doing.
Mhm.
Grant, you know what? I believe in body of work. You will hear me say that if you go back on all my podcasts, all the way back to Spreecast, you will hear me use the word body of work. Body of work
Mhm.
is very important for me. One season does not make a body of work, but when you have multiple seasons where you have multiple players that are able to contribute and make your team better, that shows that you know what you're doing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what I'm looking at is Jason Light's first draft all the way up to now, and I compare that to a John when it was a John Gruden era. You look at all the draft picks that Tampa had during John Gruden's tenure here. Bruce Allen as the general manager. We did not do nearly as good as we should have. We were not nearly as successful as we needed to be. Mark Dominic, not nearly as successful as we needed to be a competitive team in the NFC South. When you've got players like Matt Ryan, when you've got players like Cam Newton, when you've got players that just they're able to stretch the field. Julio Jones, um, Marcus Colston, just different players that throughout the NFC South, these players have been able to come in and make a difference. But unfortunately for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have been far few and in between. Your Gerald McCoys, your Doug Martin, your Levante David, players like that. And then all of a sudden, you bring in a general manager who's not only able to handle the cap, but he's able to bring in players that are able to succeed and able to add input to this offense and defense and make this team better than what it was.
And the guy's named Caleb Beninock, and I apologize
Yes.
for
Yes,
I
Caleb Benenoch.
apologize for
Who
fumbling
got
that
into
up.
football on accident, by the way?
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, we're going to football practice, thinking of soccer.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. And look at him now, a draft pick in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, 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 mm.
So,
That's just like,
so while you're talking about Caleb Benenoch, what did you think of that pick when you heard his name announced? And you know what? I encourage all of the people that listen to the show to watch the whole draft, not just round one or round two, but watch 1 through 7, just to see who you've got.
mhm.
Because I'm telling you, with Mark Dominic, goodness gracious me, I've got that. That's horrible. You know what? I'll do 22 push-ups. I'll do 22 push-ups for that one. For what Jason Light has done, for what Jason Light has done, I really do believe that this team is on the right path. You can't argue that at all. You have to admit that what they've done at quarterback, what they've done at running back, bringing Doug Martin back. Doug Martin could have easily been a Los Angeles Raider or Oakland or a Nevada Raider, Las Vegas Raider, or
Yeah.
whatever he could have been. He could easily been that. But fortunately for him, we have a general manager who kept in talks, kept him here where he needed
Mhm.
to be.
Mhm.
Coordinator was made the head coach, and that in itself remains to be seen if that was a good move or not.
We'll see.
Right now, I have a good feeling about what Tampa's trying to do with consistency, with continuity for this
Hmm.
team on both the offense and the defensive side, keeping the majority of the core on defense, which speaks volumes to me about that personnel and makes me kind of question what the coach is doing. But like I said, along with what we were talking about earlier, this is another thing we
We're
won't
gonna
know
see.
until we are going to see.
Indeed, indeed,
We
indeed.
are going to see. And they
And,
brought back, and you know what? They brought back Chris Conti,
yep,
and let's hope that this guy can stay healthy for at least 9 games.
most
I
consistent
mean,
safety last year. Yep,
absolutely.
I,
I
I agree.
believe that with Ryan, what is Ryan?
Rod Smith,
North Carolina.
Smith.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
I believe that he will be a guy that Tampa is going to lean on to assist in this secondary to upgrade the secondary from where it is. But at the end of the day, I believe that what they've done on the front four, what they've done on that defensive line will instantly help the secondary, will instantly help the linebackers to be better than what they are right now.
Indeed, indeed. And we left out a draft pick, Boyd, Devontae Boyd, linebacker. It's always good to get a linebacker, especially a strong side guy who can learn from Daryl Smith. See, you have these guys who you're picking up. Now you have a foundation that they can learn from the veterans there, the guys who have had success. And Boyd is another guy who you don't have to rush in there. Uh, maybe he makes the team. Maybe he's a practice squatter. The linebackers, you know your front, you know your first three. So your second three are wide open. So he has a chance to come in there and do the job. Uh, but if not, then you can put him on that practice squad and let him grow. And that's why I like this draft from Jason Light, because you're not rushing these kids in right away. You don't have to. They can they earn their spots. They earn their
Now let
stripes.
me ask you this because I know that you, if I'm not mistaken, you were able to go to the rookie camp and
Mhm.
see what we have, get an idea of what we have.
Okay.
So for you, I know we alluded to Vernon Hargraves.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the second round pick, Noah Spence. What were your thoughts just watching him go through the drills, go through the motions? What were your thoughts just looking at him?
Wow, he's small. That's the first. That was my first thought. He was
Exactly,
small,
and and that's what I'm
but
kind
he's
of shooting for.
but he's quick. He is quick. The thing is, I don't get too excited about this underwear football that we see right now because there's no contact. There's no there's very little interaction between offense and defense. So you can tell guys that are still trying to pick up some offense, some of the lingo, some of the language. I love his footwork. I think he's going to. And you mentioned about his first step. It is quick. Other than that, I don't want to say too much because they weren't hitting. The
Right,
bullets weren't
right,
live.
right.
And so, and I don't want to give anyone any false hope or
You know what?
or
I
any
think as
false.
Bucks fans, if you're a long term Bucks fan, you can read some into the draft, but at the end of the day, until you see these teams play, until you see your team, your offense, your defense, your special teams out there on the field, you really there's not a whole lot you can really say about it. To be honest, you
eh,
really can't.
Perfect example. Perfect example is Quan Alexander last year. Okay, all doing
And, and once
OTAs.
again, I was wrong about him. I was wrong. Man, I was wrong.
doing OT, doing OTAs. You're just like, okay, you know, another guy out there. All right, yeah, yeah, he can help with special teams. But doing training camp, the first few days of training camp, especially when they put on the pads, you saw. He was all over the place, and it was just like, wow, where did this kid come from? Did it just click on? I mean, honestly, that's how Quan came on. But it wasn't until training camp that we saw that. Trying to think of any. Kenny Bell
You
was
know
the
what?
same thing.
And let me say this right here for this show on May 11th, 2016. I think that Kenny Bell is going to stick on his team. I think he's going to be a major contributor on offense. And, a lot of people may disagree with that, but the injury that he had was pretty serious for Tampa to shut him down that early in the season and not hope for him to get well to come back. I really do believe that what you have is a special player. And looking at him holding the clipboard, I watched a lot of Tampa Bay Bucks game film, and every time I saw the coach or the offensive coordinator, Kenny Bell was in the picture. This guy wants to get better. It's not about, oh, let me go hang out with the guys in the practice squad over on the side on the sidelines while I heal. This guy was learning the system. This guy was, you saw him by Jameis Winston. You know that he truly is a student of the game where he wants to get better. I'm going to come
Hmm.
out and say that. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am wrong in this case. I feel like he's going to be a major contributor if he can stay healthy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I agree. I wrote a story on him today for today's
Yeah,
pigskin.com about
I
just
read.
how he has a chance, how he's itching to be back out there, and what the Bucks want from him or expect from him, and what he can give the Bucks. You know, he fell behind because most of your work is going to be on the field. But as far as the mental
Right.
approach, he was there. He went on road trips. He was at every meeting. So he's done everything except prove it on the field. Then we get to see, can he stay healthy and can he do it on the field?
That's my big concern right there is, we don't know, you don't know what you have until the second season. Just like Jameis Winston, uh, just like Charles Sims. When Charles Sims was hurt with the foot injury, we didn't know what we had until the next season. And you know what? This guy was a big surprise to everybody but me because I always felt like he was going to be a contributor. So I really do believe that what Kenny Bell did in Nebraska, the record breaking seasons that he had at Nebraska, I think that's going to translate to the NFL. Going to be a big time contributor for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just like I said about Howard Jones, I believe that the fan base is missing out on Howard Jones. I feel like this guy, Howard Jones, is going to make some plays. He's going to eventually get a place to where he can actually get pressure on the quarterback, so on and so forth. But those are my two guys. And, for you, I get, wow, it's almost 11 o'clock. Unbelievable. What I want to do, because I know you have a rest of your life and you're getting ready for our Tampa Bay Lightning, and you're getting wound up for that. We have the Rays, and so on and so forth. I want to know who you see on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a player that may not be mentioned that can, whether it's a rookie or a veteran or in between, that will help this team in 2016 that nobody's talking about.
Ooh, that nobody is talking about. Okay, that nobody is talking about. Clinton McDonald.
You took my guy. That's not fair.
A healthy Clinton McDonald will help Gerald McCoy. It will help those defensive ends. I think I think with a healthy Clint, I think the Bucks will be much better. Since I did a defensive guy, let me think offensively here. A guy we haven't talked about. You're gonna trip when I say this name. Vincent Jackson. Why I say Vincent? Yes, he's a veteran. He's done it before. But what he brings to that locker room is instant credibility, and as well as takes so much pressure off of Mike Evans. So a healthy Vincent Jackson goes a long ways to making the Bucks offense go.
You know what? Those are awesome picks. For offense, for me, I'm looking at a Austin Safarian Jenkins. I feel like this is a guy that everybody's pretty much written off. I've heard the word bust. I've heard the word soft. I've heard different terms for him. As a matter of fact, I read a really great article from a writer from today's Pigskin about Jenkins, and
Roy Cummins did it. Hmm.
exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
honestly, I feel like if this guy can be 100% healthy, based on what I heard about him in the preseason, what I heard about him in practice, nobody could defend him because of his size. He's 6'7", and when he's 100% healthy, they said the injuries that he had were freak injuries. Just imagine 100% healthy that you cannot defend in in the in during practice. This is a guy that is very scary. This is a guy that a lot of people have written off in the NFC South that could just quietly come in and make noise. So that's my guy right there. And along with what you said, Clint McDonald, he's a guy that tension of the defense in the locker room, which is what you need. But you know what? You don't hear about that on TMZ. You don't hear about that in TVO. You don't hear about that in on Bright House Sports. You don't hear about what he's capable of doing. But I promise you, this guy, 100% healthy, is going to help point this team in the right direction. And when you have world championship experience, more vital than what you have as a basic player. He's a player that will be playing next to Gerald McCoy, a 100% healthy Gerald McCoy. Me, it's just the ideas. It's just unfathomable what you possibly could have with this defense. And then we're talking about Ayers as a end, and when you've got two healthy defensive tackles, I mean that's scary. That
It
really is
can be.
scary if you think about it.
Yeah.
Quan Alexander, a guy that was suspended the last 4 games of the season, 100% dedicated to getting better. I saw some of his tweets on I saw a couple of his tweets where he's in the film room at all ungodly hours of the night trying to get better at his position. You, these guys want to win. And I think, like I said, it goes from the top to the bottom. And when you've got your ownership all the way down to your general manager, your coaches, your players, everybody wants to win now, you've got a recipe for a very successful season.
Agreed. 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 A franchise, as you well know, that hasn't made the playoffs since 2007.
I
Um,
was there.
it's time.
Oh yeah,
It's time.
it's past time.
It's time.
You
And
know,
this this season should be fun.
when you look at everything that's going on, you look at all the moves that are being made. I mean, you understand this franchise wants to win now. They don't want to gel. They don't want to mature. They don't want to get better as you progress throughout the years. They want to win now. And I really do believe that if everybody is buying into this, that this team can make some problems for the teams that are allegedly supposed to beat them with little problem.
We'll see, but we have to remember that the NFC South is still a pretty tough division here, and
Oh, I'm not taking anything away from anybody. The benchmark has been set by the
mhm.
Carolina Panthers
Yes,
going
they
to
have.
the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Even though they didn't win, they set that benchmark.
Hmm.
Now, at the end of the day, that's where Tampa wants to be. That's where Tampa wants to be above. is that Carolina Panthers benchmark.
Hmm.
And what I'm seeing is a team that's trying to put themselves in a position, having a franchise quarterback, having a running back, having a wide receiver, a 1,200 plus yard wide receiver who had a bad year, plus yards, had a bad year. Okay? So to me, this team is primed and ready to take that next step. Will they? That remains to be seen, just as you mentioned.
And that's what we can tell in starting September.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know what,
Mm-mm-mm.
Rick, thank you for being on the show once again, man. I really do hope that I can get you on here during the regular season because, we're going to be answering some questions throughout the season.
Good.
Legit. I mean, let's let's
Yep.
let's let's start right here. Is this defense legit? Was there coaching issues with this defense last year? Did the free agents, did the draft picks that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers picked up, did they help this team or hurt this team?
Hmm.
Is this offense the same offense caliber of offense that we saw in 2014, 2015? So a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I really do believe that we're going to get those answers in 2016. What do you say?
Indeed. Indeed. You're going to get a lot of those answers, definitely. From can the offense duplicate um, their yardage performances and score more touchdowns? Can the defense not give up 70% passing completions from opposing quarterbacks and 31 touchdowns? Can they get after the quarterback for more than 38 sacks? These things will be answered. Uh, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see can a Jameis Winston grow from last year. You mentioned Mike Evans having a bad year with 1,200 yards and 74 catches. Can he be more consistent in catching the ball? Can Doug Martin uh, duplicate his season of a year ago? Quan
Yeah,
Alexander, was
absolutely.
that just a flash?
Yeah,
How much will that Pro Bowl experience help a Levante David?
yeah, absolutely.
Uh, the,
I really
these
do
things are
believe
going to be
that.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about Levante David, I believe that him showing up at the Pro Bowl, getting his foot in the door, I think he kicked that door down. And I think you're going to see a Levante David, if he can stay healthy, I believe he will be mentioned for the Pro Bowl every season. Now,
Okay.
uh, Rick Brown, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you because, like I said, man, today's pigskin has provided me with a lot of content, for this show, and not only for this show, just to be able to know stats and get a little bit more information on these players. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you because, hey, fans, you want to talk to about football, just his knowledge and his years of knowledge. You can't beat that. That's somebody that you really need to be following with the NFL season 2 months away and fast approaching.
I appreciate that, Gene. Follow me on Twitter at Rick Brown 91. That's Rick Brown 91 on Twitter. And hey, hit me up. I don't bite, well, unless the moon is full and I'm hungry, then I might bite a little bit. But
Oh, that's Friday.
if you're gonna bring it, be expect to get. I mean, if you're gonna give it, expect to get it back because that's what I do.
All right.
But it's all in fun.
Hey,
And also today's pigskin.com, Buccaneers. I do a lot of NFC South stuff. Right now, I've been focusing in on the Bucks, so I'll be doing more NFC South stuff as the offseason progresses and pick back up on the Bucks full time once training camp starts. But we're here for you. Follow us there, please.
that's right. And they have some really good writers. Jack Perper, Jeff Smith, Roy Cummings and Rick Brown, guys that, they have football knowledge. And there are people you may not agree with what they say, but it does give you a little bit of insight on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For me, my name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight on Twitter. And, along with what he said, you know, get in here and enjoy, buy tickets, check out some home games. If you don't live in the Tampa Bay area, check out some away games, Kansas City, San Diego, Phoenix. There are a bunch of games that you can check out this season. Support this team. Ownership is really trying to do what they do to make this a winning organization. I'm excited about this season. I wish it could start on Sunday, as I mentioned before, and I stand by that. You know, give us some likes, please. Give us some positive or negative comments. We're all about the Bucks. I think that our bandwagon. There's always room on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers bandwagon. Get on board right now. We got Jameis, we got Doug Martin, we got Gerald McCoy. We gonna roll. We got the first lady of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Miko Grimes. She gonna say what she says, and she's gonna rep the Bucks, win, lose, or draw. So you know what, fans, y'all need to be excited. Let's do this because it's almost football season. Thanks for everybody that got a chance to listen. And you know what? Buc What You Heard. Talk to you later. And that's it for me. And Rick Brown, thank you so
Yo,
much
yo.
again. And y'all have a good night.